All of us, when we were leading formations, we had a snake name. I was Mamba.
Mamba. Can this stop and go behind like this and lock this plane?
No.
65 war, our army reached Lahore and they were called back.
Prime Minister Shastri expressly forbade Air Marshal Singh, the chief of the Air Force, from using the Air Force. Then it struck me, I said, oh hell, this is the runway I was supposed to bomb in 1971.
Hello and welcome to the Tuhin Show. This is powered by TheStyle.World. A city is known by its culture, by its history, by its heritage and by its people. And that is why we bring to you the icons of Bengaluru. Well, today I have with me a war veteran. He held the highest position in Air Force. He was a part of 1965 war. He did 22 sorties at the age of 24 and in total 3261 sorties. That means 3,261 times he took off and landed safely in MiG-21. Well, he slayed the skies with roaring jets. He is none other than Philip Rajkumar, Air Marshal, retired. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, Tuhin.
It's so lovely to see you. How's life, sir?
Couldn't be better. It's 23 years since I retired from the Air Force, and life's been good.
What is life after Air Force?
That's tough. I still miss flying.
Right.
But my wife and I do a lot of travel because our only daughter is settled in the US.
Right.
And we go around the world and I play golf and we visit friends and relations. And so it's nice. And I've also written 2 books in the meantime.
Right.
And all about the Tejas, and a project in which I was involved for 9 years before I retired. So it's been good. No complaints. The health is still holding out, yeah.
You look absolutely perfect at the age of 83 and many more years to go.
Thank you.
Does the Air Force still call you and ask for your feedback on something, if they're buying something or if they're doing some missions or something?
My interactions with the Air Force are at 2 levels. One is social. We get invited for all the big Air Force functions, either in training command or in the Trinity Mess. But professionally, I spent 9 years on the Tejas project, as I told you. And that is a DRDO organization called the Aeronautical Development Agency.
Right.
And once in a while, they do call me for the odd review or selection of some heads. And I also interact on a regular basis with the Flight Test Center at HAL because they're all people who passed through my hands when I was in the service.
Right. We will get to 65 war and 71 war where friends became enemies. But before that, I have an intriguing question. I've seen Top Gun, I've seen Fighter as well. But this is the question I have. It's a maneuver question that if there are 2 planes in a dogfight, this one locks. Can this stop and go behind like this and lock this plane?
No.
No?
Doesn't happen that way.
It is just by Tom Cruise. This was
You
set.
can see it in films, but it doesn't happen that way. No.
And you can't go inverted like this as well and take the picture with each other?
That you can.
That we can?
Yeah.
So there he was right. So what happens if somebody locks you?
You take evasive maneuvers.
Okay. And do the flares.
Yeah. You dispense flares, you operate your electronic warfare suite, and try and break his lock. Here I must tell you a little bit about the dynamics of an air-to-air missile's flight. Once an air-to-air missile is fired, the rocket motor burns for typically about 6 seconds.
Okay.
And then the motor burns out. And for the rest of the time, the missile is decelerating. It is losing energy. So by the time it reaches the target, if the target takes violent maneuver and the missile tries to follow it, it will just fall out of the sky because it does not have the energy to maneuver.
All right.
So these days they're coming out with a sustainer motor, a small ramjet which
Keeps following you.
pushing the missile with energy all the time, right up to impact. So
Okay.
those missiles are very difficult to evade, and but they're also extremely expensive, about $2 million a missile. So
Wow.
So unless the target is really big, you won't be using those.
It's okay. It's a 400 million plane, and that you can put a.
If you're shooting a 400 million plane, fair enough. But if you're trying to shoot a $100,000 drone with it doesn't make sense.
We'll straight away move to 1965 war. It's my privilege that I'm sitting in front of you. 65 war, you were all of 24.
Yes.
You did 22 sorties that time. And the biggest thing you told me before as well, when we chatted, there were friends on the other side
Yes.
who had become enemies that time.
Soon after the Chinese problem in 1962,
Right.
the United States had offered to train some fighter pilots from the Indian Air Force in gunnery on the F-86 Sabre. So 80 pilots went from India, in 10 batches of 8. And I was in the 4th batch, and I went to the US and I flew the F-86 Sabre at a place called Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas.
Right.
And when I reached Las Vegas, I was not yet 23, I was 22 something. And we had Pakistanis flying with us in the same training unit. And we were great friends. We were living in the same bachelor's quarters on the base. We used to have biryani parties and a bunch of really nice guys. And we all parted company in September 1964. And in September 1965, we were shooting at each other. So that's the way it is.
That's how the war goes.
Yeah.
But in 65 war, our army reached till Lahore and they were called back. Do you have that regret that why did they call it back, the political pressure? Or you're like, it's okay, jo hona tha wo ho gaya, that's okay?
Of course, with the benefit of hindsight, you know what, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru had passed away, Lal Bahadur Shastri was the Prime Minister. It was not even 3 years since the Chinese had given us that very bad defeat in the northeast and in Ladakh. And so Prime Minister Shastri was under great pressure not to allow the war to escalate into something much bigger, which would invite the interference from the Chinese.
From the Chinese as well.
A fear which we now know is unfounded because the Chinese were not in a position to interfere. But that time it was a very real worry. When the Indian Army advanced across the international border on the 6th of September, that was the time we should have been over Pakistani airfields shooting up their aircraft on the ground.
Right.
But we were not allowed to do that. Prime Minister Shastri expressly forbade Air Marshal Singh, the chief of the Air Force, from using the Air Force in that offensive role. So we had to wait, and on the 6th evening they hit us badly in Pathankot and Halwara and Adhampur and so on. And then we had to react on the 7th morning. And on the 7th morning, when we went to Sargodha, they were expecting us. So we had a lot of losses. We did cause some damage there, but we also had losses. So that is the way the higher direction of war took place, but we couldn't complain because we are, after all, soldiers.
But then there is a story you told me that you were flying with General Parvez Musharraf, and while you were landing, you said, oh, this airstrip we were supposed to bombard. And
that was
thank God it is there.
In the 71 war.
What happened in 71 war?
71 war, on the 1st of February, the Indian Air Force formed a unit called the Tactics and Combat Development Establishment. And new combat tactics, missiles were coming in and the Air Force had to change. So the Specialist Unit was formed, and I was one of the pilots posted to that unit. And this was in February 71. In March of 25th of March 1971, the crackdown started in East Pakistan, and we all knew at that time that there would be a war. And sometime in the month of June or July, our unit was moved out from Adhampur to Ambala. And in September, we were given a specific role to bomb Pakistan, single aircraft raids over Pakistani airfields at night,
Right.
mainly to harass them so that they keep awake all night. Don't worry about where you drop the bomb as long as you drop it on the airfield, you know. MiG-21 and Sukhoi 7s did this role, and we were training to hit this role. And we were supposed to operate from Amritsar and fly for about 23 to 25 minutes, low level, at 100 meters above the ground on a dark night,
Okay.
using only the compass and the stopwatch. Pull up on time over the target and drop the bomb and come back. And the target allotted to me was Chaklala, the Chaklala runway.
Right.
So in 2005, when I went to Pakistan at the invitation of Parvez Musharraf, who happened to be my course mate at the Royal College of Defence Studies in 1990, when he became the president, we had a reunion, college reunion there. And he organized a trip for us to fly from Chaklala to a place called Chitral, which is right up in the hills in the Hindu Kush Mountains. So we were sitting in this Pakistani Air Force C-130 Hercules transport, 16 officers and 16 wives, when Air Marshal Aliuddin, who was the Air Force counterpart at the Royal College, he said, "Hey, Raj, you want to come up to the cockpit?" I jumped at the opportunity. I went and sat between the two pilots when we started rolling down the runway. Then it struck me. I said, "Oh hell, this is the runway I was supposed to bomb in 1971.
But 71 war situation for Air Force was not like Jackie Shroff saying ki ye subah kab hogi, and then there is a sunrise, then only you can fly the planes.
The 71 war was largely, the air war was largely concentrated in the eastern sector. But I must tell you one thing, in October 1971, I was sent off to France to be trained as a test pilot. So I didn't fly in the 71 war.
Okay.
But I was preparing to do this particular mission I spoke about. But the 71 war, the main action was in the east. There was something going on in the west, but it was more of a holding action. And of course, the Air Force played a very major role in a place called Longewala in the desert.
Right.
Where a Pakistani armored thrust was stopped almost entirely by the Indian Air Force.
Right. But you know, one of the proudest moments again came when we got back Abhinandan. When he dropped in Pakistan and he was sent back to us.
Yeah. And then that was, you're talking about the 2019. Was it 2019?
2019, yes.
2019.
What was your call sign? Because see, we see all the movies and all, we see all the call signs. We see Tom Cruise called Maverick, and then there's Goose. What was your call sign?
Didn't have a particular call sign. Each squadron was given a name. Like, for example, the number 1 squadron was Tiger.
Right.
Tiger 10 was the CO.
Okay.
And so on down the line. So the junior most guy was probably Tiger 24 or something.
Okay.
Like that.
Which Tiger were you?
During the war, we fly in formations, red, white, blue, pink, whatever.
Right.
When we went to Sargodha, I was red 4.
Okay. Red 4.
Yeah.
That was only for you.
My leader was red 1.
Red 1.
2 was the wingman. Red 3 was my leader, subsection, and I was red 4.
Red 4.
Yeah. So those kind of call signs you see in movies, but in actual fact, they are more prosaic. Yeah.
Right. Who had the coolest call sign? Who was the coolest when you were flying?
When I was the flight commander in 3 Squadron in Pathankot in 77, 78, 3 Squadron, the emblem is a cobra. So
Right.
3 squadron was called the Cobras. And we had the names of snakes. All of us, when we were leading formations, we had a snake name. The CO was Cobra 1, Cobra 2, and so on.
Okay.
And I was Mamba.
Mamba. Wow.
Mamba 1, yeah.
You were Mamba 1.
Yeah.
Wow. The black mamba, the
Yes.
poisonous snake.
Yes.
How many planes have you taken down?
I have not shot down any plane.
No planes, no dogfights for you.
No, I was in a ground attack squadron during the 65 war. And in 71 also, we were only tasked for a ground attack mission.
Right.
Not an air-to-air mission. So I didn't shoot down anybody.
65 war happened. You were the war heroes. What was the reaction of the public? Did they know that you were the war heroes?
No, at that time, there was no social media. There was no TV. And letters from Bangalore to Adhampur used to take probably 4 days or 5 days to reach us. I must say, south of the Vindhyas, people, I don't think they were even aware that a war was going on.
Asha.
Because it lasted only 22 days. Whereas Punjab, which is right there,
Which was the hot.
yeah, there was a lot of awareness in Punjab about the war. And after the war, we were invited to some villages, and the village pradhan used to sing our praises and so on. But in the large towns, I don't think anybody knew what was going on there.
But one of the most important time in your life was when you were the project director for the first indigenous light combat aircraft, which was made in India, wholly in India, and it took the flight. We also talked that a lot of people discouraged that time that this plane won't fly.
Tejas project started off with something called the Light Combat Aircraft Project.
In 2003,
2001.
it got the name Tejas.
That's right. So when the Light Combat Aircraft Project started in 1986, there were some new technologies which were being incorporated in it. And we were going to attempt to do all that in India. So the Air Force had a lot of misgivings. They said, no, you can't straight away jump into the program like this. We have to do a technology demonstration program. Demonstrate the technologies, and then we'll take a call. In 86, the project started. Then by 1991, the government ran out of money. We were pawning our gold stocks to the Bank of England and so on. By the time we got full funding, it was 1993 for the technology demonstration program. And at that time, the Dr. Abdul Kalam was the scientific advisor. He asked for my services to be loaned to the Aeronautical Development Agency because I had specialized as a test pilot. So he says, I was an Air Marshal. So I came to Bangalore in September 94, that is 30 years ago. And I set up the National Flight Test Center, which was exclusively devoted to the test program of the LCA. When we had done about 75 flights, the Prime Minister, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, said, I want to see this aircraft you guys say you made and all that. So he came and he gave the name Tejas. This was in May of 2003. And eventually, after a 5,000 flight test program, and the aircraft went into service with a full operational clearance without a single accident. So, that's quite an achievement.
And Mr. Modi just took a ride in Tejas recently.
And last year in 2023, the government has placed an order for 83 plus 97, that is 180 aircraft worth 115,000 crores. So that's the kind of saving the country has made. So it was a successful program. It took time because we had not tested out the technologies before.
Right.
But in the end, it has worked out. Yeah.
What's the future of Air Force now? We know we have ordered Rafales. A lot of Rafales are coming now. We also ordered Tomahawk
Cruise missiles.
the cruise missiles. My question is, everybody is saying China is surrounding us. China is going everywhere. They're making the Silk Route. Are we standing on a greater footing?
You see, China has a long land border with us.
Right.
3,000 or 4,000 kilometer long land border stretching from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh. But China has a great weakness, that is, all their energy supplies come from the Gulf and they have to go through two choke points, the Strait of Hormuz and the Malacca Strait here. So there we have now got Sukhoi 30s based in Tanjavur, which armed with the BrahMos missile, anti-shipping missile, they can cover these two choke points. So the Chinese are very aware of that, and I don't think they will ever push things to an extent where a hot war starts off, because they know their vulnerability.
Right.
And also, it's very important to remember that between India, Pakistan and China, nuclear deterrence is operated. All three are nuclear powers.
Great.
So there will be no major war because of threat of nuclear escalation. So it will always be below the nuclear threshold. Some little border skirmishes, some irritants, mainly to keep the pressure on India.
So pressure is building everywhere. I'll get to the pressure now, which builds when somebody's in the aircraft. I've asked this before as well. When you have the water pressure, when you are flying in a jet, what do they do? How do they cope with that?
Now when I was flying, we used to fly relatively short missions,
Right.
Between 45 minutes and an hour and a half, maximum. But nowadays with aerial refueling, people are flying for 5 hours, 6 hours.
Going up to 10 hours.
Yeah, 10 hours. So they have a problem. So they wear diapers. They also raise the cockpit temperature slightly high so that you sweat more, and that relieves the pressure on the bladder. So diapers is the way they cope with that.
Is there air conditioning inside?
Yes, very much.
Okay.
You can control the cockpit temperature.
Nice. After flying the jets, do you feel the need for speed when you drive the cars on Bangalore roads?
And strange that you asked me the question, because when I was chief test pilot here at the Aircraft and Systems Testing Establishment, I used to fly a variety of aircraft, the Canberra, the MiG-21, the Jaguar, and all. And I used to get onto my Chetak scooter and drive home. So there was quite a drastic change. But I never felt the need to speed on the road and have an accident, because it didn't make sense.
Okay.
So you adapt to the environment you're in. But it was quite a strange feeling after flying a MiG, supersonic MiG, to get onto my
Mark
Chetak
3,
scooter.
Mark 4,
2,
Mark 2.
Yeah.
Mark 3 to sirf yahan pe chalta hai.
Yeah.
What's the strangest encounter you have had while flying?
Strangest incident, I would say, is when I was in Iraq. I was a combat instructor. So I spent 2 years in a place called Tikrit, Saddam Hussein's hometown.
Right.
Between 1981 October and 83 October. So while I was there, two things happened. One is Pakistani Air Force officer called Wing Commander Cecil Chowdhury, the much decorated hero of both the 65 and 71 wars. He was in the same squadron as I was in the Iraqi Air Force. And we flew together in the same formation.
Okay.
We briefed and debriefed and trained the Iraqi cadets together. And Cecil Chowdhury was again a very nice guy. I mean, we got along well together. So that was one. Second was one day in the middle of the desert, there's a base called Saad Air Force Base towards the Jordan border. So we had moved there, and the base commander came up and asked me, he said, "Are you a test pilot?" I said, "Yes, I am." He says, "I need your help." I said, "What can I do for you?" He says, "You come with me." And he took me in his car to the hangar. where there are a lot of bamboo crates, woven bamboo crates made out of that with bitumen for waterproofing, from which they're pulling out disassembled wings, fuselage, wings, fin and all that. And there were Chinese technicians erecting these, putting it all together. And he said, I want you to fly these. I said, sure, show me the flight manual. And he showed me the flight manual, it was in Mandarin.
Okay.
Then I went and sat in the cockpit and I found that the cockpit was identical to the cockpit of the MiG we were flying in Iraq, a version called the F-13. So I said, maybe the switches also behave the same way. So I connected up the battery and the hydraulic power and checked out all the switches and all that, and they were all identical.
Okay.
Then I asked for the ejection seat manual. Fortunately, the ejection seat was a Martin Baker seat made in England. So the manual was in English. So I knew the safety limitations of the seat and all that. Then I asked for the engine manual. The engine manual was produced with a Chinese engine, also in Mandarin. But I could make out the RPMs and the jet pipe temperatures and oil pressures and all that. So I made a note of all that. And then I said, yes, I'm ready to go. And I got airborne. The aircraft flew very well. I did the air test profile.
You didn't have to eject?
And no.
Okay.
I was prepared to do that. But it behaved. And then I did 4 more of those tests for 4 more aircraft. Then I went and briefed all the other Indian instructors and everybody started flying it. So that was a strange experience, flying a Chinese aircraft without reading the flight manual.
Right.
And an opportunity to see what Chinese have achieved in the aeronautical industry.
Right. What's your favorite song which comes in your head all the time?
These days it is My Way by Frank Sinatra.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you sing 2 lines for us?
No. Yeah.
Any other song, any Bollywood song?
I don't watch too many Hindi films.
Okay.
I want to see 2 movies, Sam Bahadur and Fighter, which I'll see one of these days. Yeah.
Sam Bahadur was actually like this, that, hi Philip, how are you doing? We're gonna talk. Was he actually like this?
Field Marshal Manekshaw had settled down in Kunur after retirement. And I went to do staff college in Kunur in January of 1976. Jan to December was the course.
Wellington.
So soon after landing up there, our daughter was only all of, how old was she? 3 years old.
Okay.
So we had gone down to Kunur on my scooter to buy her some shoes. I was sitting in the Bata shop when who should walk in? The Field Marshal himself, in his jeans and his khaki pullover and with 2 of his Gorkha Johnnies. So I immediately jumped up and I said, good morning, sir. I'm squadron leader so-and-so and this is my wife. So he said, oh, I'm sure it is your wife. It's too early in the course for you to be out with someone else's. Yeah. So that was Sam.
He's a funny man.
Yeah.
But very strong.
Yeah, great man. Yeah.
Did Indira Gandhi have crush on him?
No, I don't think so. But she relied on him a lot.
Right.
I have seen this with my own eyes in 1971, June. I had gone to the Oberoi Intercontinental. Those days, Oberoi Intercontinental was the only 5-star hotel in Delhi. And it had a disco called Tabelas.
Okay.
And Tabelas, the glitterati of Delhi would be there every evening. And I have seen Sam Manekshaw's white Chevrolet staff car with his red 4-star plate standing in the porch. And Sam would be in Tabelas in the evening.
Okay.
With his wife.
Wow.
Yeah.
He deserved all that time. The The only field marshal we had in the independent India.
Great man, yeah.
Did your plane have a name? Did you give it a name?
No,
And if you get a chance to give it a name, what name would you give?
Sheila.
Sheila. Why? Because Sheila ki Jawani?
Yeah, like Chuck Yeager, when he went supersonic, in 1947, his rocket plane, he had called it Glamorous Glynis.
Okay.
Glynis was his wife. So I'd probably call it Glamorous Sheila.
Wow. I can handle this Sheila. The other Sheila is handling me.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you get a lot of ladies' attention since you were in Air Force? And they are supposed to be flamboyant and all.
Nothing, I spent 7 years as a bachelor in Adhampur. Adhampur is 20 kilometers from Jalandhar, Kent.
Okay.
And in the 60s, that was the boondocks, And once you came to Adhampur base, there were no young women around. There were only few wives of married officers. And so all that we had was aeroplanes to fly, the squash court or the shuttle court in the evenings, and the mess life. And that's it. There were no young women around to show off or do anything. And there were no women officers at that time. These days, things are very different.
So did you date anyone or straight away you married?
I met Sheila when I was on leave here.
Okay.
And then we dated and we corresponded and we got married. Yeah.
How did you propose to her?
It happened in Koshi's, Koshi's Rajasthan.
Right.
We were sitting there in the evening when there was some cyclone or something in the bay and all cats and dogs. And we were stuck there for about 3 hours. And I think finally we ran out of conversation and I said, will you marry me? And she said, yes.
That was your last conversation?
Yeah.
What did she say?
She said yes, but there was in the usual little bit of family hassles and all. But fortunately, my father happened to know her father.
Okay.
So the two men met and they decided to.
And it's been how many years now?
54.
54 years.
Yes.
Wow. And many more years to go, sir. If you have to give any advice to all the husbands there, what would you say?
Long marriages don't happen overnight. They happen one day at a time. And you have to keep working at it every day.
And what is the mantra of a happy married life for all the husbands?
Secret of success is yes, dear.
And sorry, dear.
Well, yes.
If you could have any historical figure in your cockpit as a co-pilot, who would that be?
As a fighter pilot, I would like to have a guy called Hans-Joachim Marseille. He was the most aggressive fighter pilot in the Luftwaffe. He got killed when he was just 21 years old, but he had already shot down 157 aircraft, most of it in North Africa. And he was the epitome of the aggressive fighter pilot. Hans-Joachim Marseille. For a fighter sortie. On a long flight, probably Birbal.
Okay.
Because it'd keep you amused. Yeah.
Right. And on a short...
Roger Federer, maybe. He is one of my guys I placed right up there, both for his achievements and for his behavior.
Who's your favorite tennis player now?
These days, I'm rooting for Alcaraz.
Alcaraz. Oh, that boy is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
We are tennis heads. We keep discussing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a great tussle between Sinner, Alcaraz,
Right.
Olga Rune. There's a new crop coming up.
Medvedev.
And Medvedev.
Poor chap. Every time this happens, he's taking two sets up and then losing the next 3 sets. It's so sad for him.
Yeah.
What's the significance of Bangalore in your life?
See, Bangalore, My father was in the state government medical service, so I was born in a place called Davangere, which is north of Bangalore.
Right.
But when I was just 6 months old, I came here as a baby, and I grew up here in Bangalore. And my father went away to fight the Japanese in Burma, in the Indian Army Medical Corps.
Right.
So my mother was staying with my father's mother. We had a house in Shivaji Nagar, in that area, somewhere there, Tasker Town. Harsha Hotel. There's a hotel called Harsha Hotel right next to that. And I have seen Bangalore from the time I was 3-4 years old. It was full of whites, full of Brits. And then in 47 happened and they all went away. And sometime in May there was a victory parade here in Bangalore. And this victory parade took place between Queen Victoria's statue and King Edward's statue in Cubbon Park. Some armored cars and all went past and we all waved the Union Jack.
Okay.
The British flag we were given and we waved it. And those troops were all smiling and waving at all of us. That was the Victory Day Parade of 1945. Then Dad came back from the army in early 47 and we went to Mysore. So in August 1947, 15th August 1947, Dad took us to the local Maidan for the flag hoisting. And that was the first time I saw the tricolour.
Right. Wow.
And I said, what's happened to the Union Jack? He said, forget about the Union Jack, this is your flag now.
Wow.
And where the KSCA, Chinnaswamy Stadium is today, that whole area between Queens Road and Central Street, that whole area, it was a huge entertainment city called Hollywood City. So you had Ferris wheels and you had merry-go-rounds and you had shooting galleries and beer pubs and small movie halls, right up to 46. And then we went away to Mysore, and when I came back a couple of years later, the whole place had emptied out. They said, where is the army camp? They said, they've all gone off to Kashmir.
Okay.
To fight Pakistan.
And then you go to Lakeview Milk Bar and have your milkshakes and ice cream.
Served in your car, across the road,
Yeah.
sitting there.
Still there.
And Bangalore, my life revolved around 4 movie theatres. Liberty, Plaza, which has now become that metro thing. Rex, which was down Brigade
Which is a
Road.
mall now.
And then a little further up was Imperial Theatre.
Okay.
Those are the memories of Bangalore. Brigade Road, Koshi, there used to be a place called Koshi's, where the favorite thing which we college students used to go and have is something called iced tea
Right.
for 36 paisa. So, that's So out of my 83 years, I've probably spent something like 60 years in Bangalore. And I've seen the transition of Bangalore from a sleepy town of the 40s. And in the 40s, it was a garrison town full of troops, American GIs, British Tommies. And HAL was set up in 1940, and it was the main maintenance base for Southeast Asia Command. And all kinds of planes used to come here for overall. So I've seen Spitfires and Mustangs and all those flying around from the time I was a kid. And then the gradual transition of Bangalore from, there was a huge influx of people from the outside. And then the IT boom. And the local Kannadigas felt threatened because today as we speak, 52% of the population of Bangalore are non-Kannadigas. But I must say that Bangalore, the most endearing feature of Bangalore is that it is an extremely cosmopolitan city, like none other in India, I would say. Chennai is very Tamil, Kolkata is very Bengali,
Right.
And Delhi is very UP Punjabi.
Right.
Mumbai is also cosmopolitan, but not to the same extent as Bangalore.
Right.
And if you go to Thiruvananthapuram, it's totally Malayali.
Right.
So this is very special.
Bangalore is special, and I'm with a special person. Well, my guest today, Air Marshal Philip Rajkumar, retired, the icon of Bangalore. This is the Tuhin Show.